questions, here's some basics. So one, we always preach to our developers, whenever you're approached by a publisher, you always want to go and ask, some of the teams that they've worked with, how did, the process go? One of the quick things that you can do is simply go on Steam. If a publisher has an extensive list of poorly reviewed games and they just come out one after another and they're continuing to come out, that's a sign. If it's generally simply a bad publisher, they're going to market themselves right out of the store eventually, because they're not making any money and they can't afford the overhead, and they're going to go away. But with a lot of these publishers that we see, that are doing less than legal stuff in the background, what you will see is a big old long list of mixed to poor reviews on Steam. And that should be like one of your very first warning signs, because let's face it, you don't want to, sell your game to a publisher who doesn't know what they're doing in the first place. So that's one of the first things. Another big one is poor communication. And let me preface this by saying, for those of you who are new to the show or don't know my background, I've been doing business in the industry for 25 years. I've pretty much seen it all in one way, shape, or form. I have worked as a publisher. I have worked as a developer, as an agent. And for the last 10 or 11 years, I've run a consulting company. We have clients who are developers and publishers and tech companies. And so there's no bias here. I've got, clients on both sides of the table. But one of the things that immediately starts, question marks going off in my head, and it should in anyone's, is when the communication is poor. It's one thing if everybody's busy, and we are seeing, in the COVID, post-ish COVID world, these deals take longer to do, for a variety of reasons, but simply because everyone isn't responding to your email within like 2 hours. That's not necessarily the bad sign. It's when, things go for days and weeks and you've got basic questions and they're not getting answered. That's when the issues come in. We always say that these, relationships never get better. If it's sketchy and confusing and just poor communication on day one, it's going to be like that for the rest of the situation. It's not like someone's over at the publishing company is going to immediately flip a switch and become way better to deal with, because it's just not. So if you are, constantly being put off, or it doesn't seem like you're any importance to that publisher whatsoever, that's a warning sign. Because if they don't have time for you during that, pre-signature deal where everyone's getting to know each other and getting to understand the game better and everything else, it's a very big red flag that they may just not care about the game in the first place. Once you are in some contract negotiation, if you ever have a company tell you that you don't need a lawyer to look over it because this is just boilerplate, or for some other reason along the line, major red flag. You should always have an attorney look over this stuff. And I know attorneys aren't always cheap. You don't need one on retainer for the entire time, but you do need to have an attorney look over, any agreement that you get from a publisher, or any agreement you get from anybody, quite frankly. The ability to hide one or two little sentences in a contract that completely changes the tone of the entire contract is very easy to do.
Or an Oxford comma. I was just reading an article about that. There was an Oxford comma and it changed everything.
Oh yeah. I mean, but that's even like more subtle than I was thinking. But the little things in there, like the IP ownership, or when money is actually due. There's a lot of very easy ways that companies can turn what looks like at face level a normal contract into something that is not at all normal. And keep in mind, these are I've took some quick notes and jotted down some of these things. These are all based on my experience. I have actually seen all of this shit happen, and so I'm sure there's going to be other folks in comments and out there listening that have other examples as well. But everything that I'm going to go through here is something that we have seen firsthand, and I know companies that have tried to do this. Another like easy up there with look at the Steam reviews or look at the game reviews for that publisher's contracts. Another very easy one is bad PR. Google the publisher. If you Google the publisher and there's a load of threads about how, they ripped off another company or how they're bad mouthing, somebody, that's a very, very good indicator of, what working with that publisher is going to be like. We have seen very, very recently, CEOs of publishers come out and make a comment on Twitter that did not play well to Twitter, and they were immediately booted from their own companies because that's how important image and PR is to a publisher these days. And so if you come across someone, and for whatever reason, it's just line item after line item of they've done something, atrocious and offended developers or seemingly screwed them over and that sort of stuff. Big warning flag, because every publisher out there needs to be very aware of their, how they're seen in the industry, because at the same time there's a lot of competition for publishers. There's a lot of competition for good games too. We scout for publishers. I see how quickly some of these good games can get picked up, and you can't be successful running around out there if you are constantly having bad PR and bad press in the in the industry. So all right, Dan, I'm going to let you take control of questions, because otherwise, my full-blown ADD will kick in and I'll get distracted left and right. So just jump in when we have
just jump in. Okay, I was just posting some stuff. Okay. Well, let's hit the first question. Here we go. This is from, I'll post it up on screen here. See, banners, new one. There we go. We don't want it to scroll. There we go. And here we go. What is the average deal you sign with the publisher? How much, what percentage should they get?
All right. So we're going to go to our patented "it depends" answer. And I saw that article by the whoever it was, that maybe it was a lawyer that went through like 30 different contracts and assigned, this is what you should be getting. That's a load of shit. I mean, to be blunt. Because every single contract is going to be different. Every single deal is going to be different. What percentage should you get? You should get the percentage that you feel is fair and it works for you. Don't go out there trying to be that company that, has a mandate of, well, we have to get 80% of the revenue and we want $500,000 up front. While there may be a publisher out there willing to do it, don't get yourself wrapped up in what other companies have in their contracts. Don't compare yourself to other games and other developers. Every single situation, every single publishing deal is different. Now, obviously, there are limits. If, everything starts flipping around and getting turned back to the way it used to be, where, developers would get a 15% royalty on their own work and all this other stuff, yes, that's bad. But every deal has to be looked at individually. And this is the way that I always, when we're working with our clients, this is the way that I look at these deals. Is it a good fit for both parties? Are you going to do better off with this publisher and make more money than you would